When people ask me Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, the answer for me is very simple. I am a Street Fighter guy through and through. Not that Mortal Kombat doesn't have its own pull. I love the graphic nature of the game. I love the lore, the backstory, the character designs, the fatalities, I have to admit, are pretty impressive to look at and sometimes can be downright funny. But to me, technically speaking, when you're talking about just the fighting engine, when you're talking about playing the games, I've always been a Street Fighter guy. It dates all the way back to the original Street Fighter machine that I used to play at a bowling alley in Springfield, Mass. I was never very good at it. I never knew that things like fireballs and dragon punches existed. It was just kind of cool to play, if only to listen to the really funny announcer voice at the end of each fight. It wasn't until Street Fighter 2 came out, and I played that in the early 90s, that things really changed. I played that in arcades first, and then when I found out that the Super Nintendo version of the game was coming, it is the game that I infamously bought and wound up being late with my car insurance because I made the decision to buy the game instead of paying my car insurance on time, which wound up costing me more money in the long run. But that's me being a silly 20-year-old kid. So with Street Fighter at the forefront, on my mind, I have two sealed Street Fighter games for the PS2 that I want to open for this particular episode of Unsealed. The first one I have is the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection, this guy right here. This says right in the back here, it says the best of the best, 15 years of Street Fighter supremacy. So this is part of the 15th anniversary. I don't have an exact year off the top of my head. But what's interesting about this is that they took all of the original firsts, like the Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Hyper Fighting, so on and so forth, and they combined it to make it one game called the Anniversary Collection, or the Anniversary Edition. And also on here is Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, which I am probably the only Street Fighter character, or one of the only Street Fighter fighters, or fans, I should say, that really doesn't have any interest in Street Fighter 3. It did nothing for me when it finally came out in arcades. It did nothing for me when it came out for the Dreamcast, and it does really nothing for me here. What's also interesting is in the yellow box right there in the center, it says here, the bonus feature is the full-length feature film Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. That is pretty darn cool, because that movie is pretty darn good. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to open this up, and I'll talk about it more. I got this from Amazon, so I'm not sure whether this is an actual new copy of the game. Now, it does say new down at the bottom there, but we all know that new can be a little bit of a misnomer when we order stuff from Amazon, so we will see. So we're taking off the wrapping. This case feels flimsy, so I'm a little concerned. There we go. Okay, so when we open this up, just want to look at it. Okay, so when you open it up, it is a newer case. It was probably a re-release, so it isn't like the first version of the game, but it does list Capcom 2004, so that's when this came out. So you see the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection disc, and you see the manual. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the manual here and see what's on the inside. So the manual is, oh, there's some notes in the back here. Does anyone really use the notes section much? There are 18 pages, and on the 18 pages, like, you get move sets. This is all in black and white, by the way. But you get move sets for every character. You also get move sets for Third Strike here as well, if you're interested in that kind of thing. So you pick either Third Strike or Hyper Street Fighter 2, the Anniversary Edition. Those are the two choices you get. And in addition, you can check out the movie, which is quite good and has all of the music still in it, I believe. So, like, there's some Silverchair in it, and there's some other 90s tracks in here as well. Doesn't show how to get there, unfortunately. Just shows how to get to the games. So not really a lot going on there. Now, what I remember about this particular game is I bought it because it's a Street Fighter game, and because I was curious what they were going to do in terms of the anniversary, how the anniversary game would work. And honestly, it's not great. It's okay. It's certainly a different mishmash of the Street Fighter games leading up to that point. And it's worth playing, I think, but it is not anywhere in my top 5 favorite Street Fighter games, that's for sure. It's interesting to look at, and it's an interesting idea, but it's a gimmick. And if nothing else, the reason that this is pretty awesome, like I said, for the same amount of money that you can buy this for, you can buy a copy of the Street Fighter II animated movie on disc, and here you get the movie and the game, so why not? So that is the Anniversary Collection. Now, I believe as part of that anniversary back in 2004, there were also some special controllers that came out that had different characters, and depending on how you moved the controller pad around, you could actually see them kind of animate. So I thought that that was pretty neat. Okay, so now we're getting to the one that I am excited about. I do have this, and depending on whether this is new or whether it's really new, I'll hold on to this or hold on to my original version of it. First of all, a little bit of backstory. I first played the first game in this series when I was at a bowling alley in Chicopee. The bowling alley in Chicopee that I went to as part of my league had some really cool arcade games. They had an NBA Jam machine, which of course ate a lot of my quarters. It had a pinball machine with Teed Off, which is a Gottlieb table that is a lot of fun, and I played that on stream before. And they also had a new Street Fighter game that I hadn't heard a lot about called Street Fighter Alpha, and that's where this comes in. This is the, oops, let me fix that for the camera. This is the Street Fighter Alpha Anthology, and this was released in, let's see if it gives me a year, 2006. This came out. Now this has Street Fighter Alpha, Alpha 2, Alpha 2 Gold, and Alpha 3, in addition to Gem Fighter, which was released as Pocket Fighter here in the US. Now, these are the arcade versions of the games, so if you're looking to play Street Fighter Alpha 3, the awesome PlayStation version that has the World Tour mode, that's not here. However, you do get arcade emulations of all of the Alpha games, and to me, they are really good, including my favorite, which is Alpha 3. So it says here, Ready, Set, Fight Alpha Style. The definitive Alpha collection comes together with 5 prized fighters united for the first time. The Alpha Anthology is a perfect compilation of Street Fighter Alpha, Alpha 2, Alpha 2 Gold, and Alpha 3. In addition, Super Gem Fighter Mini Mix is here. So let's go ahead and open this one up, and we'll see if this one is new or not. Should have looked at the disc in the Anniversary Collection to see if that's in good shape, but whatever. So when we open this up, yeah, this is at least in a PlayStation case, just like the other, so that is good. And let me show you the inside. There it is. I like the purple/red of the disc. That disc art is pretty cool. And of course, we have a manual in here. We'll take a look at that. Just want to take a look at the disc really quick. Hopefully I won't drop it. Yep, disc is in good shape. And this is definitely one of the newer cases, so I'm wondering whether this is a re-release too, but that's okay, as I'm not too worried about having originals as long as it's new. So when we open this up, this is also black and white, which is not a surprise. This is a bit longer. This is 23 pages in length, plus there's a Street Fighter II collectible card game ad at the end, plus there's some ads for some Street Fighter animated videos as well, which is pretty cool. So again, Street Fighter Alpha is the first of these games that I played, and I played that at the bowling alley. Street Fighter Alpha 2 I played at Fantasy Realms in Springfield. That's how I really started to get into Street Fighter Alpha games, because the owner of Fantasy Realms, Guy, he was a great Street Fighter player, so we always used to play against each other, and I often had my butt handed to me, but nevertheless, we played that a lot, and he also got a Street Fighter Alpha 3 machine in his West Springfield store. So we played that a lot, and I played that while I was working there too. So that was a lot of fun, and that's why I really got into that. So when Street Fighter Alpha 3 came out for the PlayStation, I bought that on launch day. That game simply had to be had, and it was worth owning. Despite some minor technical differences between that and the arcade, it was close enough where I thought it was worth it. And the World Tour mode, being able to take your characters through different missions and build them up, I thought was well worth the price of admission. The Dreamcast has that as well, the Dreamcast version, although the Dreamcast controller doesn't quite handle Street Fighter controls like they should, so you need to have a Dreamcast, a PS2 controller adapter to really play that the best way, at least in my opinion. So that's a look at this, and again, it's all black and white here, but it shows you the basic controls, and it shows you the move sets for each game. I could talk about the Alpha games at length. I could talk about the evolution from super moves to in the first game to isms in Alpha 3, where I would always use, and I haven't played this in a while, I would use Aism in almost all of the Street Fighter Alpha 3 characters. I would sometimes use the Aism because it harkened back to the original Street Fighter 2 games, but more often than not, I would use Aism. I cannot recommend this anthology enough. This can also be had on Amazon brand new for less than $20. So you're talking about $4 a game. I mean, that's pretty darn good. The emulation is pretty faithful. The controls handle well. The game plays snappy on a PS2. The load times aren't all that bad, so I really do recommend this. As far as the Anniversary Collection goes, you can kind of take it or leave it. If you're a big Street Fighter fan, you probably already own it. It's something you can look into, but this, I think, if you're a fighting game fan, especially a Street Fighter fan, is something that you cannot not have. It's something that you should have, and I do recommend it wholeheartedly. So that is a look at a pair of brand new Street Fighter collections, anthologies, whatever you want to call them, for the PS2. And thanks for watching this episode of Unsealed. I really do appreciate it. One day I will not sound as stuffy as I do, but I'm working on getting better. Until the next episode, everybody, thanks for watching, and until the next time, see you later.